Because we often talk about the energy transitions in terms of kilowatts, panels, and grid upgrades, but the real shift, the one that matters, is happening at the human, at the really local level. And this webinar opens the Power Up public series by focusing on what renewable energy can do for people and with people, not just in theory, but also in practice. So we will hear from two pilots of the project, one in Valencia by Arturo Zea, and one in Rožnov pod Radhoštěm by Teresa McLaughlin-Vanova. Excuse me, Teresa, for really this terrible Czech accent. These two cities are using energy sharing as a tool for social justice, and in both places, renewable energy is way more infrastructure. It's a means to build trust, reach the most vulnerable, and challenge the status quo. And whether it's through one-stop shops or personal letters, community events, or procurement reform, these cities are showing what's possible when you center the need around people and not only technology. So welcome to this conversation. It will be about creative work, this very lively and creative work of making the energy transition fair, and about doing the hard things first and to open the most meaningful path. So let's begin. Miriam Eiserman from Energy Cities, the floor is yours.
Thanks a lot, Marine. Good morning, everyone. Thanks to all of you who joined the webinar. It's really nice to see you all here. So I'm gonna share my screen. And so I hope you managed to see. Yeah. And as Marine was saying, it's all about the human side of energy. I won't dwell too much on what energy poverty is, because I think most of you are really also experts in the field and are working on that topic. But I just wanted us all to get into the topic, and I want you to imagine the energy transition as a big neighborhood party. There is music, there is lights coming from renewable energy, obviously, and plenty of excitement about the future and how this energy transition can improve our cities. But then as we look around, we notice that there are some people kind of outside of the group and just peeking through the door. Some neighbors are not really in the party. So and those neighbors are actually the vulnerable households. They're often left out of the green, clean energy transition. And this is not because they don't want to join, but it's really because there are some things that block the entrance to the party. It's like, as we all know, high costs, complicated paperwork. It can also be that they simply don't know what is happening. They might not have been invited. So today it's really about inviting everyone and checking how we can make sure this works fine. And I wanted to quickly go through the Power Up project within which we organize this webinar, and which is really focusing on this type of involvement of vulnerable households in the energy system. Power Up is really meant to be the catalyst for social innovation in the energy market. And our ambition is to provide access to renewable energy and energy efficiency for vulnerable households. And we really want to make them, as I was saying, active contributors to find the best solution for those energy production schemes and energy efficiency schemes. And we also want to create wider awareness on energy poverty as such, on energy poverty mitigation measures. And the webinar is also one way to do so. So in Power Up, we have 4 pilots across the EU, Eeklo in Belgium. There are 2 municipalities in Campania area in Italy. And then the 2 ones that you will hear of today, Valencia in Spain and Rožnov in Czech Republic. And we have also 2 replicator sites, Heerlen in the Netherlands and cities in North Macedonia. And they're doing essentially capacity building work. And yeah, what the main focus of the project is really that those pilots since 2021 already are exploring different business models that can work for vulnerable households. So in Campania area, for example, there is the setup of renewable energy communities with PV on social housing and on public buildings. Then we have in Eeklo in Belgium social cooperative shares for the energy cooperative EcoPower, and social plug-and-play PV for the same households who benefit from those pre-financed cooperative shares. And then Spain and Czech Republic, we will hear from them later on. It's around energy sharing with energy communities, and a very original scheme in Valencia around PV installations on cemeteries with sharing with vulnerable households. And in Czech Republic, PV on municipal social housing, and one-stop shops to really help people understand what they can do and how their burden can be reduced. And all these are city-led initiatives. So today we really also want to focus on what can cities do together with those vulnerable households. The pilots in the Power Up project organized co-creation workshops where we really wanted to see how we can match the needs of vulnerable households with their realities. So usually the pilots would introduce by linking to people's everyday struggles. So they wouldn't straight away talk about the business models, but really connect with topics that are dear to and important for the people in the area. Then explaining the business model, and then also discussing with those vulnerable households how they can really get involved as of the start, and then also through a proper shared governance throughout the scheme. So this is just quickly the timeline of Power Up 2021-2025. The project ends this year, and we're really full speed in the implementation phase now, and would also want to scale the pilot experiences up. Everything is very specific to each place, but I think things can inspire other areas, and you in your own cities might be able to adapt some of the ideas that we'll share today and in another webinar in your own area. So yeah, this is it really for Power Up in a nutshell. I will hand over again to Marine, and I hope you will learn quite some new things from Teresa and Arturo. Thank you. Marine, you're mute.
Sorry for that. So, of course, our two speakers, as I said, are Arturo and Teresa. But before hearing from them and their experience in Valencia and in the Czech Republic, we would like your input. So your input, we will be collecting them through a Mentimeter. I guess you are all familiar with the Mentimeter. It's a platform that does this kind of live survey. So if you have your phone, please take it and scan this QR code. And if you don't, go on www.menti.com/L3U2NWHS41J. And please start voting. We will give you a couple of minutes and enter the code 23972784. Okay, we can also put it in the chat. Yes, Miriam, you're wonderful. You've already done it. Here. Okay, so you have a few questions to answer. The first one is household-to-household energy sharing possible in your country? I'm going to start voting just to see if it's working. My side? Yes
Marine,
or no?
I may share my screen so that people see also the results as they come in.
Absolutely.
So just a second, because I'm not quite sure if
I have the link open otherwise.
Ah, okay. Oh, that's
Okay,
fine.
I
Then
can-
do that. That
Okay.
can be another option. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, let me do it here. Okay, can you see it? Okay, so we have 4 and 4. That's excellent. Then the second question is, what is the... Okay, please continue voting, no problem. The second question is, what is the biggest challenge in supporting vulnerable households, such as with their energy bill, electricity? For instance, it's a lack of capacity. Okay. Miriam, okay. Yeah. Capacity, literacy. Okay. Okay. And then you can continue answering, right? Then the third question is about the readiness of municipalities in Europe to tackle energy poverty and vulnerability issues. Do you agree that most municipalities are well equipped and actively tackling the issue? You can vote. Yeah. Strongly agree, strongly disagree. Please vote. Miriam, it's also up to you to switch the slide.
It's done.
Okay, let me check.
I don't know if you can see.
Okay, yeah, I can see it now. Oh, but let's go to the, okay, biggest challenges. Okay, so now we are checking the questions. And now the very last question is about the readiness of municipalities in Europe to embrace new decentralized energy production and consumption schemes, from skills through resources, etc. Again, we need to switch. Okay. Okay. And 1 if you strongly disagree, and 5 if you strongly agree. And then we will get back to this survey to check the results altogether. Okay. Okay. So let's go back to the first one. So, is household energy sharing possible in your country? So we have 9 respondents. We are 23 around this virtual table. So I guess you shouldn't be shy. Please answer. But it seems to be that it's tight. Like the vote is tight. Second question, the biggest challenge. So here you have been way more talkative. So trust, access to subsidies, adapting the communications, gain ownership, access support, capacity identification of the households, co-creation, front costs, lack of automatization, policy, incentive, bureaucracy, poor institutional outreach. Teresa and Arturo, this will be great food for thoughts for your upcoming speech, right? Thank you so much, everyone. And then on the readiness of municipalities, so we are, like most municipalities don't seem so well equipped and actively tackling the issue of energy and poverty and vulnerability. And the last but not least, embracing new decentralized energy production and consumption. It looks like it's there's a little bit more appetite. But I'm gonna stop sharing this one, and you can always consult the results again. And I'm going to start sharing I'm going to leave the floor now to Arturo because he will tell us more about Valencia. And he will describe the main aspects of this pilot in Valencia and perhaps reflect a bit on what we've seen through this Mentimeter survey. So, Arturo, whenever you're ready.
Hello, good morning, everybody. Sharing my screen already, I think.
Yes, you are. Can you go
but not
full
in full screen?
Yes, yes.
Okay, is it ready?
It is. Thank you.
Okay, and then of course all those challenges and barriers, we're really familiar with them. We hope we can find some solutions from our experience, and let's go through the pilot of Valencia. First of all, as Marine and Miriam well introduced, this is more of a social transformation for the ecological transition. So we really need massive adoption from citizens, from the neighborhoods to really have an active role on that if we want to become climate neutral cities in some moment. And for that, our main tool or cornerstone, I would say, it's our one-stop shops, the energy offices. This is our way to get all these big policies, climate and energy policies, understandable for citizens, and so they get to know not only the big policies and goals that are a bit hard to understand, but really take it into practical solutions that you can apply at your home, at your neighborhood, and with your colleagues. So this is one of the maps that I will show, and here you can see that we have 3 energy offices set up. And the first one was launched 5 years ago in the east side of the city. It was proved to be really useful for citizens living there, so we launched 2 more 2 years ago. And we have a mobile energy office which goes in electric car, and we try to cover the rest of the city. So we like to say that we want to become part of the neighborhood daily life. So being, for instance, just between the hairdresser and the grocery store. So people can see us as they walk through the streets and see that this is a municipal free open service that they can take advantage of. So what do we cover in one-stop shops? I'm not going too much into the detail, but we mainly cover 5 areas, not 4, but there's one that goes for everything, that is understanding your energy bill. That's the entrance door for anything you want to do related with energy. And then we have a team of 20 people with different educational backgrounds and competences that cover all these layers: the energy efficiency, right to energy, or energy poverty in this case, renewables, energy communities, and I will tell you more, and energy transition, which is more an educational activity on schools, all to get to this logic of neighborhood in transition. So really from down up, bottom up. So speaking about our pilot, we have 2 different models because as we spoke, to make massive adoption of this energy transition, not everyone can afford it in terms of economic on money, but also on time. So having the time to really explore all the potential that we have nowadays in potential activities. So one of our main activities is to, on the renewable energy area, to find schemes that are accessible for everyone, to try to have universal access to renewable energy. And you can see in the map, and also a list of nowadays how many energy communities do we have in the city. So you can see that it's really a new citizen movement that started in 2021, and the list here of 11 already constituted energy communities in order of appearance. Let's say the first example from Castellar Liberal is I have to say, the only one that is ongoing, so with activity sharing energy since November 2022. And the rest are ready, but they found a real hard bottleneck, which is finding an available space, a surface to put their first PV plant, their first installation, and start sharing energy, and then upscale and grow, just like the Castellar or Liberal example is trying to do nowadays. So what do we mean with energy communities? How do they look? like in our city. They are non-for-profit associations, and they are really citizen-based. So they are initially formed by neighbors that have no idea on the energy sector. So we really go for participatory processes in every neighborhood, try to find the first citizens that want to lead the projects and train them and give them all the support and advice and on the technical, legal, administrative, and so on everything. We try to cover everything. So you can see on the image on the right hand, we draw the 2 kilometers range within nowadays is allowed to share energy in Spain. So we had the idea that in the midterm, everyone in the city should have an energy community next to their place, to their household, so they can join it. And we can see that nowadays we have the city more or less covered in terms of renewable energy communities that are constituted. So here's a picture of the last gathering. Because we organize gatherings of energy communities every 6 months, more or less, so they get to know each other and see that they are not alone on this journey, and they can learn from each other. Besides our support, they can have mutual support at every point. And as said, what's their bottleneck right now? To have a space for the first installations. And what can a municipality do in this sense? When on one hand, we provide the support from the energy office, but this is more qualitative, but they need some space. So we are helping the municipality to make a public procurement of municipal roofs for all these energy communities. So the idea is that progressively the city will tender roofs for these energy communities. So everyone has a space to start their projects and then grow, expand, upscale, and so on. So this is one of the pilots for the Power Up. So helping the municipality to provide this space through a public tender, and of course, having in mind this right to energy approach. So if I'm giving you a rooftop, I will ask energy communities to have some social perspective and give points for that. For instance, taking a percentage and have a reservation so low-income households can participate too in the projects. This is the first model, but we have a second model, and we call it the public service model, and is related with the cemetery project that was introduced before. And in this case, you can see on the left hand 5 points in the map. Those are the 5 cemeteries in which the municipality is investing to put PV plants and share the energy. So what's the main difference between the two models? Because the let's say that the scheme that is behind is exactly the same. It's collective self-consumption, in which from an installation in 2 kilometers radius, you can share the energy as you like. The big difference here is on the governance. So for energy communities, it's them who will collectively invest, install, operate, and decide who's participating. But in this case, with this public service model, it's the municipality who directly invests and decides where to allocate the energy. So this is not an energy community. It's a big difference and should be taken into account, but it also really has a high potential, and they can complement each other. So when energy community cannot reach so easily energy poor households, we can do so from the municipality. So on the left hand, you can see the more clean and beautiful map, and on the right hand, it's a more useful one. So in this case, the different colors are the regions in which every municipal social services headquarters have impact. So we cross the information between the 2 kilometers of every installation with the regions of impact of the social services, and we can see that we cannot cover the whole city by now, but we can access a lot of vulnerable households and provide them with free energy. So how does it work in practice? Well, first, those are some real images, finally, from the installations in the cemeteries. This is how cemeteries look in our city, because last year when I explained that we would put PV panels on the cemeteries, people really had a lot of imagination, but this is how it looks. It's just a building. So on the rooftop, you have, as said, available space, and the cemeteries don't have a lot of consumption, so we can use most of the energy for the energy sharing and not for the self-consumption of where the PV panel is located. So this is how the scheme looks like. We have cemetery installations, 5 different, that overall they have more than 2.8 megawatt. So this is a really big pilot. We are testing with we are starting with the more small installation, but we will do this for the 5 and for the overall potential. Then overall, the 75% of the energy will go for direct self-consumption of municipal buildings. So the municipality has a direct return of the investment, and that makes a solid economic model for the city to invest. Oh. And
can you please mute yourself?
No problem. And so 75% goes for the direct self-consumption of the municipality, and the other 25% goes for households identified by social services that cannot pay for their bills or are struggling to do so. And we are speaking about more than 800 households. So in the future, and this is not on the scope of the Power App because it's a bit complex, but in the future, we would like also to have some percentage to include non-vulnerable and SMEs through a fee payment system, but it's a bit complex to regulate that. So nowadays, this is the image. And on the left down side, you can see how incentives are split in this case. On the left hand, you have the municipality that is having direct self-consumption and compensation for the surplus. So you take economic advantage of using the energy, solar energy, as it's being produced. And also, when you have more production than consumption, you get compensated. And also, you can think that you will have savings in municipal subsidies because the municipality is actually paying a lot of money to the electric companies every year to pay the debts of vulnerable households. So we can try to change the approach. So we stop having municipal cost and try to invest and anticipate the problem. So we get to the families, get to know them, and help them in advance. They will probably not get to the debt situation, and we will save a lot of money for everyone. And on the other hand, the households will have direct savings on their bill every month. So this is how the scheme goes. And I leave it here. I will leave the presentation on the background just in case you have some questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Arturo. It is incredibly inspiring and practical. I am pretty certain that this model will be replicated elsewhere because you've done a lot of heavy lifting, right? But first and foremost, what's really interesting is that this project is deeply rooted in some kind of social mission. Like you started with the one-stop shop, you started by assessing that there were debts, and instead of trying to like every year bring back money to kind of solve these debts, you try to find a structural solution to these debts, right? So what was, let's say, the strategy, like from the energy and officials, from the city officials, from the Valencia agency on climate? What were really the first steps when they assessed this situation?
Oh, well, I would say that the starting point was in 2016, in which we made the first mapping of energy poverty in the city. We saw that we had more than 20% of the citizens at risk of energy poverty, according to the MIS indicator. So that makes you understand that you have a problem there. And we can imagine that with the COVID crisis and the energy crisis, these figures are probably worse now. So we have a strategy in general for energy poverty, and that is not only based on renewables, but we see that we need an holistic view. So any initiative related with energy from the city should have an right to energy approach, or at least a perspective. So this gets accessible also for households that cannot pay for the investment. So for instance, renewable energy communities, they are great, but there's barriers for people to come in, such as the initial investment. So let's make sure that if the municipality has some space, some rooftops to provide it to energy communities, do not do the business as usual in procurement, which is ask for money a compensation or for energy for the municipality, but ask for energy for vulnerable households and try to keep this perspective and that sensibility also for citizens, so they are also actors, not only social services from a passive way of doing, but let's try to build collective solutions for that. I would say that this is the spirit.
Yeah, and I also I would expect that you received a lot of feedback from the one-stop shops and the kind of experience that were really directly there, because that's I mean, that was part of the Mentimeter word cloud, like identifying the households. But since you already had this very kind of granular mapping, thanks to this one-stop shop, you could already identify maybe some areas where there were priority needs or not, right?
Yeah, indeed. Our mapping of energy poverty made us understand where the energy offices were most needed. And they are not located just because someone decided to put them in. It follows a criteria to go into the neighborhoods that can have more impact. And since 5 years ago, we started this collaboration with social services. So we have a dynamic in which we have social workers in our energy offices, and they have direct contact with the social services social workers. And so we refer families that need some support on the energy side and try to cover that. And with that, you make sure that you reach the people that need it most. We have other barriers that are more structural, and we can speak about that more later on, because giving the energy for free is not so easy as it sounds. But yeah, that's the idea.
Yeah, let's touch upon the barriers when we engage in the conversation with Teresa. I would also, I mean, at this stage, I would really like to ask you about the kind of the social conditions in the public procurement, because they were really like one of the key angles in your presentation, right? So how did you ensure that this kind of municipal assets that you already had, such as municipal rooftops, cemeteries, etc., directly benefited low-income households?
Yeah, this procurement, it's not being easy to prepare. It's ready. So this year we will have the first call. But as you can imagine, this is something that the municipality has never done. So the procurement rules are really clear, but making something innovative out of it, it's not so easy. So in this case, we saw the potential that the municipality could do something different. We have a regional law that allows us to make this procurement and target only energy communities. And that was really important for us. So make sure that the ones that are applying for the call are really citizen-based initiatives and not companies that are capturing the idea and the model. And for that, we built and we prepared some legal studies that support that idea. And with that, the first challenge was that to make it only eligible for renewable energy communities that follow the directives from the European Union. So citizen-based, open participation, democratic control, and so on. And then when you need to decide what to ask in return for the availability of the municipal surface, because it's a public good that you need to ask something in return, we saw that you don't necessarily need to ask for money. So a free payment, you can ask for more qualitative things. And for that, when you give points in the tender, we included some elements and factors that are more social related, such as, I cannot tell you a lot because it's not official. And if any energy community is connected, they will have privileged information. But for example, we cover things on the percentage of energy poverty that you are making a reservation of the share of the energy that will go for energy poor households. The most you give for energy poor households, the most points you get. Also having a gender perspective, having plans to communicate with the citizens and your neighborhood. So not only those who are reaching the first to go have their solar energy and then they stop activities. We will ask them to have more and more initiatives in the neighborhood in the long term. And so these are the kind of the social aspects that we want to make sure that are covered with this tendering.
Okay, thank you so much, Arturo. It's been super insightful. So for everyone, there will be a Q&A session after Teresa's presentation. And Teresa, whenever you're ready, I would really love to hear more about the Rožnov project, which was not originally part of the Power Up pilots, right? So what prompted the city to join, and how did it start from the outside really help you shape your approach to tackling energy poverty with renewables?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Teresa, and I actually represent the Association of Local Energy Managers, and the city of Rožnov is one of our members. And we are an NGO that supports municipalities in the Czech Republic, implementing energy projects in general. And it all started because we felt that there was not enough support for energy managers in general in the Czech Republic on municipal and regional level to carry out their projects. I do not have as good presentation as Arturo had. However, I have a couple of pictures ready for you. Can you see my screen?
Not yet, Teresa.
Not yet? Okay, I'll do it. Yes, you can see it now. Better now, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Sorry, I'll just put it in the presentation mode. I need to shift this a bit. So just for those of you who are not familiar, and I know Rožnov pod Radhoštěm, you couldn't ask for a better name of a city. It's a place in eastern part of the country.
Please, can you switch to presenter mode, like the full screen?
Yeah, sorry, I thought
Thank
it was
you.
there.
Yeah.
So it's a city in eastern part of the country, and Rožnov is in one of our members, and it has been for the over 5 years, which kind of shows as well the city's commitment to energy projects. And that was one of the reasons why we decided to start negotiating with them when Power Up project started. And for those of you, it's a city that's kind of just sits, you can see the mountains at the back. It's a typical, I would say, Czech city, the mix of old buildings, and there in the background you can see the new blocks of flat. But if you say the name to any Czech citizens, they will all think of the museum in the open air. Like you can see the kind of traditional old building there at the back. However, it is also the seat of, used to be the Tesla company, and now the onsemi chip factory is going to be established there. So it's not like just a nice scenic view. And it's also typical that it has 16,000 inhabitants, which is a I would say general site for Czech cities. Most of the municipalities are that site. And when we were looking for the project, maybe I'll go back, not to reveal yet what our pilot project was about. However, we thought, okay, let's do a project that has to be energy measures and energy poverty. But the thing is, in the Czech Republic, energy poverty is still very hidden. It's not on the political agenda. We don't really know how to define it. We do not have access to energy vulnerable households in a way like I learned from other pilots. We don't have social tariffs, so the distributors cannot tell us who's in need, etc. So when we started talking to Rožnov, we were not sure what project to choose. And one of the inspirations we had in another Czech city, it was also done in the Horizon 2020 project. They had an idea of installing a renewable energy source on asylum home, where usually parents with families take shelter in difficult situations. And the idea there was to install PV that would be funded for public money. So first Rožnov started looking that way. We tried to identify the building, but given there is no such suitable building, in the end, we decided to go, so and maybe that's a kind of easy way, but we have identified a municipal apartment building. So apartment building owned by the city, which is specifically designed for we would call it social families, or you have to qualify to be able to apply for a flat in this housing. And the building we selected, and it's typical for, I would say, Central Eastern Europe, block of flats built in the 70s. It has 6 stories, and there are 85 households, which makes it one of the bigger ones. You can see some of the technical details on the screen, so that's just to give the kind of techie ones. But given the social structures, so people who can apply to be housed in this building are elderly. So that means their income is kind of usually under a certain threshold. Then there's the starter families, so young families, especially with children. And then the third group, and that's the biggest one, especially in this building, are those called, they have a kind of social status. And that could be families that have some kind of issues that need to be resolved, or there are people who've been released from jail, etc. So kind of on the agenda, they have this social status. So they apply and they can be housed. And usually they stay in this housing for about 2 years. That's what we've been told by the city. It's about 2 years contract. So you can see that the turnover there is quite quick. And so that's the building. And our idea was for the city to install PV on the roof of the building and use the electricity produced to not only for the public areas, but also to provide the electricity to the households that would be interested, and to make the working or the operation of the system even more efficient. There's also a battery that the city, on top of installing the PV, the city will also purchase a battery system that would help to accumulate and then share when the electricity is not produced. This is just a little bit information about what happened. It took us some time because the legislation was changing, and then it took us some time to convince the city councillors that it's a good idea and that we want to do it and secure the money from the budget. However, we got there. In the bottom left corner, you can see what the visualization looks like, because as we speak, I'm hoping they're actually installing the PV on the roof. It was all about good timing. However, there will be about almost 40 kilowatt peak power installed plus the battery. And we were also lucky in the Czech Republic, we have funding available for PV, both on public and it's both for public entities, but also for private citizens. So I think that the subsidy is about 40% altogether. And so we were successful. So part of the cost will be covered from the funding. And currently we have about 50 households that will be involved. At least on the paper, we got their signatures, we got their interest. And I won't go into the details, but I can answer them later on.
Yeah, thank you so much, Teresa. It's really, really interesting, like to see the difference between these two projects and really the different starting points, right? It's also the beauty and diversity of Europe. I mean, there was a really a consideration or point that that you made that made me reflect. And I mean, for those who are learning about the Power Up project, you can also find some interviews with Arturo, also with Teresa's colleague online. So we had some previous conversation, but really something that stayed with me ever since is that that you, Teresa, and your colleague Jan, you said that there were like the hardest part. It was not only like the technical one, but it was really the human side. And you had to earn the trust of the resident to convince them that this project was the right thing to do, right? So what did building that trust really look like on the ground? What did you do?
Yeah, well, what I think is slightly different about this project, that it's actually led by energy and facility managers in the city council. Just to give you a bit of background, when the project started, we had the meeting with the social services. However, as you can imagine, social services are overburdened. I think, unfortunately, that counts for every country in Europe. And also, another obstacle that we identified is that the municipality itself doesn't know who in their territory needs help in a way that they do not know what kind of benefits people in their region receive. This is kind of hidden. This is just pure information that the labor office has. However, the social services only work with people that get referred to them for whatever reasons. So we couldn't just kind of come to the social services department and ask who can we work with and so on. So the way we started the other way around, we spoke to the facility manager who actually looks after the building, and he's the one who has a very good knowledge of the local people, and he's also kind of seen, because he's their connection. He comes there to fix the whatever, if the light is broken or something wrong with the elevator, and he's very well aware and knowledgeable about the situation in the house. For a variety of reasons, not every inhabitant of this building wants to be talking to, someone coming from the outside. However, he kind of already understands the dynamics in the building. They have this kind of unselected, or like he's not been selected, but there's this one person who, when he says something, they will all come and do as he says. So yeah, that I found quite fascinating. And saying that, I also think we do have a kind of advantage and also disadvantage. However, we do not come to them asking them to do something about their lives, which is something that they get. However, we come and say, we would like to do something. And we believe and hope this will kind of save you some money, and it will also increase the value of your building, and you have this kind of new technology in your house. And I think there's maybe something that's kind of new to them. So we took the approach not from the social side, but from the kind of techie energy saving side.
Yeah, but you really need to build on the social side to make the difference. Okay, let's welcome Arturo back into the conversation, because there are some questions that I would like to ask to you both. So this is really about, okay, so I'm spotlighting us to make sure that we are visible to everyone. So really, I would like to talk to ask you both about the kind of the main thing, the main hurdles, the main barrier that you both faced when you kicked off the project. Let's start maybe with Arturo.
Okay. I think I have to say what everyone says, and it's administrative. It's understandable because this is really new for everyone, and the directives are from some years ago, but not so much. And to make it practical on a daily life on a big municipality as Valencia is, it's complex. We are lucky enough to be a sort of energy agency for the city, so we can take time to participate in European projects such as this, and to have some qualitative work, because we have time, and that's one of our lines, to be innovative and try to create the basis for new things. But we also need to make it really easy for the municipality, to the public servants and the political decision makers, to make it on practical. So you go there with a solution that is already worked out. And for instance, we prepared the legal basis. We wrote down the tender specifications. We made the technical analysis for the energy sharing of the cemeteries. And with that, it's easier for the municipal service, for the municipal departments to take action and to be brave enough to take the lead on these projects. But of course, the times are really long, and any decision takes time, and implementation takes time too, because we are speaking about, for instance, from the cemetery project, we are speaking about 4 million investment. It's not easy for a municipality to move that investment in a project that has never done such a big installations in a particular place, such as cemeteries. It takes time. And And at the same time, we are in contact with the citizens. So we need to be careful with the expectations and with the timelines, and be really honest and reachable. So they understand that this takes time, takes a lot of time to make these models real.
Teresa, would you agree that the biggest hurdles are administrative?
Well, it was not the case for us. For us, maybe because we got lucky that the legislation changed throughout the project, and as of January 23, the energy sharing is possible in the Czech Republic in an apartment building without the distribution fees, which makes it even more interesting financially. The obstacle I have noticed was the political, but the reason being not so much the city plans to invest PVs on other of their buildings. However, this case is different because the benefit will go to one building and one group of people. It's not a public building like library or school that different citizens attend. Here we have 85 people out of 16,000. So the question was, why this building, and why should they benefit? I'm sure this is something we've come across when working with this group in general. However, that was something that we have identified, and with the other ones, we'll still to see the tendering documentation, again, being municipality, we have to prepare carefully. However, the city has resources to do that. And I think of barriers. I don't think so. I think it's what I would say is a barrier, but that's the reality of municipal governments, that the agenda is so busy that this was like an additional project. This is not something that was planned. That's not their daily business. So we had to take the capacities of these people, and obviously that led to some delays. So I would say, it would be great if local authorities had more capacities to do these projects, and to have even time not to only do them, but also talk to them talk about the projects with their colleagues, because this is something, as you remember, come out also in the interview, that in the end, some of the colleagues in the local authorities said they didn't know much about the project and felt a bit left behind.
Capacity was also a keyword that we saw in the Mentimeter. So it seems to be quite a constant. But Arturo, you said that you had been quite successful in bringing some different profiles on board, right? So municipal service, social services. What was the spark? Do you know if there was like an impulse from somewhere, like a discussion that shifted the way people were thinking, and suddenly realized that there was something that should be done like together?
Well, it comes from many years ago. So building the energy transition of the city takes you need to involve all the departments, and we usually work in it's commonly said that in silos. So mobility only works on mobility, social services on social issues, and the energy guys do some things on energy. But you really need to make it all together, because the solutions are holistic. And with social services, we really need to spend a lot of time also on the front line. So we have our energy offices making trainings to the social workers that are attending and supporting the poor households every day. And it's important that they get to know that we can help them on their work. So we are not just putting additional pressure on with energy projects that are not so easy to understand, but so they can really rely on us for that. So if you don't understand energy bills, we do. So you send the families to us and we help them on that. We can train you, of course, to understand energy bills, but you have other priorities. Let's collaborate, because we are municipal in some sense. So we try to build these collaborations in which everyone is doing what they to do what they do best. And if I can add something about the barriers, previously I spoke about the administrative hurdles. it doesn't apply only for the internal hurdles on the municipality. Collective self-consumption in Spain is not so easy to implement, and that goes because of DSOs and retailers that are not implementing so fastly the directives and the laws on the really specific regulations. So we are also trying to facilitate that by creating the figure of a single manager that can operate the collective self-consumption, representing the energy poor households, so they don't get to make all the paperwork that needs to be done to start receiving the energy at your energy bill. So it's important also to understand that the barriers are not only internal, but on the whole model. You can find it everywhere.
Yeah, that's really that's so true, and there are things that are completely out of anyone's control, out of the project's control, right? So it's that's what makes it so rich and so interesting. And thinking about the lessons that we can learn out of that is really what like it's not only about like saying things go smoothly, but also learning about what doesn't work, because maybe here today, there is somebody from Spain who is facing exactly the same issue as you, and you could perhaps talk and manage to overcome those barriers in a few months together. So, okay, Teresa, the project in Valencia is very big, whereas yours is kind of small. Do you think there is a do you think the scale matters in this project? Because, I mean, especially when I think about social acceptance, when perhaps in Valencia, it was easier to convince more people because there were more buildings and more households and families that were benefiting from the pilot. Whereas in Rožnov, it's only one building, one municipality. So do you think that makes also a difference?
Yeah, on a scale it does. However, working in the area that I'm working, I still think it is an impactful project to be carried out, because Valencia is specific. You know, you have the planning, the resources, and so on, but it takes time and years of commitment to do that. However, this can be seen as a kind of smaller project, but will bring change to those households living there, and something that I kind of almost want to say almost every municipality is able to do. You know, to identify the building, and municipalities are now skilled they can know how to procure for any renewable source, and then maybe it won't be just sharing in that one building. Maybe in future, you know, they can actually start thinking, okay, we have these schools, libraries, and maybe we produce more electricity than we can use in the building itself. So let's connect them to our social buildings. And hopefully, the problem is that we still don't have much data to kind of support our arguments. All these things we only have modeled. So hopefully this could be like one of the first of projects. And once we have the data, we can maybe sound even more convincing to others, to show them what was done, because the costs are not so high, but the change to the people living in the building could be big. And also, it's not just about saving them the money, but it's also about kind of learning about new energy sources, because this is something we spoke about it, but that's our bubble. But do these people, what do they know about renewables? You know, maybe it's for them something really intangible, something they cannot reach. But this is a way to introduce them and to make them part of the transition. So I still believe in the project having its own benefits, and I don't think it matters whether it's small or large.
That's really interesting, because it's really the kind of like first making sure that there is tangible, that people can actually hold on to, and really as a starting point for other conversations, other projects to happen as well. And I see in the question, like in the chat, already a few questions popping in. The first one is a clarification to Arturo. Do beneficiary households, I mean, don't they have to pay for the energy? through the project? Just clarification for
Maria,
everyone.
I can read them directly if you wish.
Oh,
I think.
yeah,
But
please
do you want me
answer
to cover?
No, just this one.
Just
this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
They don't have to pay. In the second model is the municipality who makes the investment and takes the responsibility for that, also the maintenance and everything.
Okay. Instead, in Rožnov, do household have to pay? Teresa?
I think there will be a very small fee for those using the electricity produced. That was one of the conditions the city council asked us to implement.
Okay, the second question is, I think, extremely relevant too, is about energy efficiency, right? We know that the cheapest energy is actually the one we don't consume. So were there any previous work performed on energy efficiency? I mean, Teresa, in your slide, there was something about energy efficiency and try to improve the quality of the envelope first. So maybe we can start with you and then to Arturo.
Well, the building is being insulated a couple of years ago, so that's one of the advantages. And additional one, I don't think there's a kind of energy council or person going into the houses, but the city has its own one-stop shop kind of set up in the municipal office. So for citizens that are looking for advice, they can call or come in person to speak to the energy manager about things they want to change or maybe get some guidance on.
Arturo.
Yeah, thanks for the question because it's absolutely relevant. We didn't spoke about that. For us, the PV panels and the renewable energies, and the very top of the intervention, because we start by really more basic things, and we understand that the more important thing is when you get to know the family that needs the energy. First thing is to get to know their bill, optimize the bill. Understanding how they use their appliances at home. We don't have the capacity to make big retrofitting because we are speaking about the spread households, not in single apartments. And but we can provide them with energy efficiency kits that we use in our one-stop shop. And also we will organize with the families that are participating in the models, collective trainings, so they change their mindset actually about how to make use of the solar energy as it's being produced, because they are used to read and to listen that they should put their laundry at 12 o'clock in the night because it's more cheap. Now we need to change that, so it's 12 in the morning because it's the sunniest hour in the day. So it's also a challenge. So they make them understand how to use the energy in the best way and reduce their energy costs and consumption.
That's of course like the starting point, and that's really like, let's say that the production of energy is the tip of the iceberg, but it's also so maybe so more visible and also so kind of more sexy, right, than insulating, so more appealing for a lot of people. Then there is a third very, very relevant question, is the assessment of beneficiary households, probably more in Valencia. And are there some periodical assessment to identify the families, to check on them, check if they are still in energy poverty, if their family situation has changed, etc. Arturo.
This is also relevant. First, we wanted to avoid the complex assessment for starting the project, because we have more offer than demand, but at some point it will be the opposite. So we will work with social services on the criteria for the prioritization. Could be single mothers, elderly that are more at home and can really have more consumption, big families, and all those are on the table, but we will build this criteria as we go and as we learn. And also we will monitor the remotely the consumption from everyone participating, so we prevent non-desired effects such as increasing the energy consumption, for instance, but also being fair enough, because maybe some of the families wasn't consuming the energy that they needed actually, and now they can. So it takes a lot of analysis, but the good thing is that with the project we will have the chance to have real data and to analyze it on the way.
Yeah, Yeah, I think it will be also very interesting to kind of monitor some more seasonal consumption and the kind of equipment that the families can afford. That will make a huge difference too, and perhaps like overall increase the resilience of the city. I mean, you had this massive blackout a few weeks ago, and yeah, one question that I've been wanting to ask you is that do this a community energy model, can they act in kind of island mode to protect families from blackouts?
Not really.
Not
That's a
really.
common question since then. Yeah, but you need batteries for that, and
Okay.
that's a different approach. And yeah.
Okay, there is also a great question from Gus van der Nat. Who owns the local e-net in Valencia, and what was the challenge in convincing this owner, hopefully not the municipality itself, of the usefulness of the project?
Okay,
I don't know what the
yeah.
e-net...
I think he
Yeah?
means the DSO, I guess.
Okay.
So the distribution system operator, the one who owns the electric network, and well, it's a heavily regulated sector, so the role here, as said from the regulation on collective self-consumption, is to receive the energy sharing agreement, which says who is receiving what percentage of energy at what time, and they make the calculations because they have the smart meters. They do the maths for you. They should do that, okay? And send the information to the supplier of each household, because every household could select their supplier freely, even if participating in the collective self-consumption. So they don't need to be at the same supplier. So the DSO here has passive active role, let's say, because it's passive because they don't take part of the project, but they are really key for the implementation. But it's they just basically need to follow the legal requirements and send the information correctly, so the retailers do the billing correctly and reflect the savings on the energy bills. As said, this is constantly evolving. 3 years ago, it was a nightmare. Now they are doing things better with time.
Okay, we are reaching the end of this really fascinating conversation. I would like to give our two guests the like 1 minute to share their most burning, let's say, tips or best advice for other municipalities who would like to replicate the pilots, or really something like the main takeaways from your pilot, something that you would really like inspiration to be built on. Teresa?
Oh, that's a difficult one. I would like, yeah, it would be good to actually see the projects. We all now in the process that we know how we prepare them and created them, but I've already kind of answered myself in the previous question. I would like to see the data, because without it, it's really difficult to convince the political representatives who decide about the budgets that these things make sense. And even though it's not possible to kind of put in money the social aspects, as I said, I think these are still impactful and important projects to be done. So I would like to say the more the merrier, and yeah, I'd like to kind of hear even from maybe the guests of this webinar or others, maybe in future, examples of projects being carried out in their cities.
Okay, so the data being the number one thing that you need to collect to really foster this conversation. And now, Arturo?
Yeah, that's a more complex question, always in the end. I would say that we are in a key point in Europe, in the sense that we are being allowed to do things that wasn't permitted years ago. So really an opportunity to change things and being innovative. But for that you need time, you need human resources. This is absolutely key. We are lucky to take part of an energy agency that supports the municipality asset. But if you're a small municipality, you can have support from expert partners, maybe at national or regional level, or companies that work on that. So don't change the public service approach, but support yourself from companies or from entities that have this expertise. We are doing so. Even if we have engineers in the team and so on, we need support on the legal analysis and the technical analysis. So don't be scared about being brave and try out.
Teresa, please.
Sorry, I'm a bit slow burner. Yeah, that's something I wanted to say as well. Energy communities are quite a kind of new phenomenon, and there are so many different ways they can work. There is no one clear way how to do it, and there's no correct way how to do it. So I would kind of follow on Arturo, be brave, try to see what can work in your area, and don't be afraid to fail or even try new things. And I don't think it's a fail. It's just kind of going forward and seeing what works and what doesn't work. So, and I think and sharing ideas is really important.
I love that. In our introduction, Miriam and I talked about the creativity it requires to build energy communities and really build not only technical tool, but really tool that serves the people on territories. And what you just said about being brave, not being afraid of making mistakes is actually absolutely a fundamental. You mentioned data as being one of the key points, a key pain point as well. You mentioned trust, like energy poverty. It's not possible to build or anything or to solve it without building trust among among humans, among the different like the departments, the different skills, the different capacity, the different assets that we have. And really, technology is the tool, but relationships are the foundation, and it goes beyond the kind of where the departments are, but to try to also foster this kind of relationship, human to human. And the municipalities, of course, they play probably the most critical role as connectors, facilitators, protectors, also vulnerable residents. And yeah, I love it. I really found this conversation fascinating because you in Valencia, in Rožnov, Teresa and Arturo, you showed us that energy justice is possible when citizens are seen, heard, and supported. I will pass the floor now to Miriam for one very small conclusion, sharing my screen once again. And here you are, Miriam.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Marine. Thanks, Arturo. Thanks, Teresa, for the really inspiring discussion. And thanks also for the questions that the participants have put in the chat. If there are any others, please reach out to us. I can also put my email, my contact in the chat so that we can keep in touch. Other than that, there will be further opportunities also to meet the Power Up people. So there will be a second webinar on the 27th of June, the same format as this one with the 2 other pilots. So this time we will share experiences from Belgium and Italy, and we will focus slightly more on this whole co-designing process that happened through the past months. So you can register. I put the link on the slides, but we can put it in the chat again as well. And then on the next slide, I wanted to flag some of the other upcoming Power Up highlights. So for those of you who are in Italy, in Belgium, in one of the Power Up countries, actually, we will organize national capacity building workshops where we also share those learnings in national language. So you might be interested to join these ones. And I can paste a link right here, actually, in the chat, so that you can see when the workshop is happening in your country. Then we will have, as I was saying, we're going, it's really the final phase of the project. We'll have a final project brochure in which we will really summarize all the learnings. It will be out around October 2025, I guess. And then there will be a final conference conference around November, December. There is still a bit of time, but you may already want to pencil that in your agendas. And then the last or before last slide is about the library that we have. So if you want to scan the QR code to see, what are the different guides that we've produced, especially one of the latest ones, the National Guides for Application, goes really very much into detail of the pilot experiences, like the ones that Teresa and Arturo were explaining. So if you want to dive a bit deeper, these reports and documents are really useful. And I think that's really the last slide now, is teasing another webinar that we're organizing in the framework of the Live Loop project, which is on exactly the same topic as this one here, but with many different other speakers, including speakers from Denmark, from Bulgaria, around energy sharing and how we can empower communities for inclusivity. It's in Brussels and online on the 11th of June. So there's still time to register and to join. That's it from my side. Thanks also to you, Marine, and there's the Espresso training, which is a great learning opportunity, part of the Energy Cities Learning Center that you might want to join. It's a self-paced online course for civil servants. So maybe you might have already a very good knowledge of energy communities, but if you want to share this with some colleagues who are still newcomers in the field, that could be a great opportunity. So thanks to everyone. Thanks to you, Marine, for moderating, and feel free to reach out. Thanks, Eduardo, for pasting the contacts. And we wish you a nice day and hope to keep in touch with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.